everyone. Welcome to the Modern Mom podcast, a show where we get real about motherhood, the messy, the magical, and everything in between. I'm your host, Winnie, and today we're diving into a topic that so many moms can relate to, but don't always talk about. Like, where did my libido go after kids, and how do I get it back? Well, let's be real. Between sleepless nights, endless snack requests, talk about endless snack requests. I get that. And finding time to just shower in peace. Yes, intimacy can sometimes feel like the last thing on our to-do list, but it doesn't have to be that way. And to help us navigate this, I'm so excited to introduce today's guest, Sofia Ashley. Thank you so much, Sofia, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is a special one. I know Sofia is your totally TMI bestie, and I'm sure you're going to love her. She's a certified sex coach who specializes in helping parents reconnect with pleasure and play after kids. She's also a mom and stepmom who's reinvented her sex life 3 times. We're going to hear about that. Once after each kid. Okay, so she's the founder of the Happy Vagina Project. You heard that right. And Sex After Kids. And she's here today to help us transition-proof our sex lives with practical skills, a little fairy dust magic, and a whole lot of real talk. So Sofia, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here and talk sex. It's my favorite thing to do.
I imagine that is. And I think a lot of us can learn a lot from you today. And I know this is a topic that I think a lot of parents or a lot of moms aren't sitting around talking about, but maybe they are. I'm glad that you're sort of giving us that free, comfortable space to do this. So Sofia, I love that you're so open about this topic. Can you sort of start by sharing your own struggles and what happened after you having kids?
So I started my sex coaching journey before having children because I spent a good part of my 20s at war with my vagina, as I like to call it, struggling with orgasm, struggling with painful intercourse, and just like not getting along with my vagina. Hence the Happy Vagina Project and being on a mission to be in better relationship with my body. And then a stepkid joined my family. He was 4 when I met him. And I remember the moment I looked at my partner and was like, oh, I'm having married with kids sex, even though I haven't had a child myself. And that just meant the frequency was less than I was used to. The fatigue, certainly of my partner as the primary parent, was less than was more than I was used to. And I was used to like waking up and having sex most nights before bed, and here we were like maybe getting to it once a week or so. And it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It was just like a different experience. And that was the first time kind of the light bulb went off for me. And then I had my first kid, my daughter, and that was 6 years later or so. And no, maybe 4 years later. Anyways. And my sex life at that point, like, first kid, I had a lot of postpartum anxiety. I was, I had a very fussy, not quite colicky, but like hard to sleep, hard to eat kid. And I remember my husband in particular being like, we start to get cranky with each other when we haven't made love. Can we make an agreement that like once a month, somebody's got to tap somebody on the shoulder? And it doesn't need to be glamorous. It can be pretty perfunctory, but it serves a purpose, and we would always feel better after we did it and feel more connected and all that stuff, right? And so we kind of hit this like maintenance sex phase, but it worked for us at that point. Like it was a clear, overt agreement. And this is a lot of thing that people don't realize, right? It's just like there's seasons in your parenthood. There's going to be seasons in your sex life. And it's another thing to overtly talk about and overtly negotiate, right? And then I had another very surprise baby 3 years later, very tough pregnancy. I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's hypothyroidism afterwards, which tanks your libido. And we went through like an 8-month drought at least, where like I was pretty sure I would be good if I never had sex again. And I didn't miss it that much. And my husband, God bless his soul, he was so lovely about it. There was no pressure or anything like that, but we could still feel that there was something missing from our connection. And I didn't want to be in a relationship 20 years from now, like fast forward to when I'm 60 and we haven't disconnected in that way, like I knew that wasn't going to be okay for me, even though my body wasn't necessarily like craving sex. And so really my interest in starting to work with parents came after my first daughter, where I just became so fascinated with the unique set of factors affecting our sexuality after children, because there's body stuff that's unique to having children. There's relationship, identity, body relationship stuff, like emotional stuff that's unique to after having kids. And there's also like cultural messaging about sex and sexuality that's also unique to having kids. And all of those things affect our desire to have sex and our comfort with engaging sexually with our partner.
And I think you share so much, Sarah. And thank you so much for that, being so honest with us on that as well. You know, we know that you said people are exhausted and they struggle and our bodies change right after having kids. We're mentally exhausted and we feel like we're juggling so much. And then of course, like you mentioned, shifting dynamics, 8 months, to 3 kids now. So for you, what do you think are the biggest struggles that people face in their sex lives after kids?
I mean, I think there's many, and I admit I used to get quite fascinated in almost like diagnosing the issue, right? So there's a whole bunch of body factors, whether it's painful intercourse because of tearing, whether it's birth trauma that has you kind of shut down about connecting with that area or having someone see that area, or even your own fear of like touching that area after a baby came out of it, C-section, like all, your pelvic floor is taking a hit, like all that kind of stuff. Emotionally, I think the biggest thing that doesn't get talked about enough is the, matrescence, which is a newer word for a lot of people, but it's that like life stage, kind of like teenagehood, adolescence. It's a transition that parenthood, there's putrescence too, and it's a total breakdown literally of your brain and a complete rebuilding of your identity, your priorities, like everything. And so to think that doesn't affect how you relate to yourself as a sexual person, how you relate to your partner and to your sexuality, we just completely get blindsided by that, I think. Another really big factor that's getting more broadcast time, I guess, on the internet is emotional labor, and understanding that like how you split chores in childcare can have a huge impact on your libido, from the perspective that if I'm caretaking all the time and I'm caretaking my partner, that's not sexy. I don't want to have sex with people I take care of, nor should I, right? So we can get caught up in, is it the medication? Is it the hormones? Is it perimenopause? Like, what is the reason for my libido not working the way I want it to? And how can I, quote unquote, fix it? And I'm all for exploring some of those things, especially if there's some like low hanging fruit or like very obvious pieces. But what I've kind of learned is that I can have a really great sex life where I'm not forcing myself to have sex, even if I don't have a very big sex drive. And so the biggest myth for me is people just are like waiting for their libido to come back and things will magically get better when that occurs. And I'm like, you could be waiting for forever because you might need to work at it a little, but also you don't need to wait to feel an overwhelming desire to have sex to have a great sexual encounter. And so my focus is really on teaching the people the skills to do that, so that no matter where they're at, no matter what career is happening or health diagnosis or anything that's happening, you still have the skills to get naked and play with your partner, which is the ultimate bottom line.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Well, talk to me about this. We often hear this, that it should just come back naturally. Like parents should just all of a sudden think about sex. Yes or no?
I mean, to me, it's the same as like your body bouncing back. Like you aren't bouncing back to anything, your body is different. Your brain is different. Your life is different. Your sex life's going to be different. It's tied to your body and it's tied to your relationship. And so where I find people get frustrated is they want sex. They want to feel, the excitement of the early days where like things get wet and juicy and inflamed and tingly and excited. And like that is the only signal that they process as a desire for sex. And first of all, like your brain, like, I think the biggest factor people forget is like you're in a long-term relationship now. It's not the early days of your relationship. And so arousal is not going to work the same way when you live with that person, right? We're not talking about the excitement of dates when you live apart. Like, you live with this person, you see them every day. You have to work at creating that kind of erotic tension. Or you can just accept that tuning into even just a desire to connect with your partner. Like, my signal these days, I know I'm ovulating when my body's like, do I maybe feel like getting naked? It can be that subtle, right? But if I know how to turn that into a party my libido wants to show up to, I can have a great time. And I think people get stuck in this. I either am like dripping wet, hot, and horny, absolutely want it, or I'm forcing myself. And there's so much space in between there that people are not seeing. And so they just end up not doing it, not doing it. The weeks, the days, the months pass. And the biggest fear in that is then you wake up and look at this person and go, who are you? Why do I like being around you? Why did I marry you? And we want to avoid that. Like, I want to be in a relationship where I'm 80 and I'm more in love than ever and having a great time. And I think most people listening do as well, you know?
Exactly. So I think a lot of people are also wondering this. What would be some of your top suggestions that help those who are listening find that spark again and reconnect even after kids?
So, my biggest pieces of advice are certainly if you are listening to this and you are within the first 3 years, so like you just delivered or you have toddlers, just be very gentle and gracious with yourself in this period. You are not sleeping, your body is still recovering. And so, the main tip here is to just get like lower the bar, don't put pressure on each other, but don't let go either. And I liken this to like holding each other's hands through the dark. And as long as you can emerge out of the cave with your hands still together, you're doing okay, right? So that might mean just prioritizing time to like physically touch each other without expectation. It might mean making time for date nights, but just being really easy on yourselves when they don't happen. And know that like there will be time and space. And like for me personally, like when my kids turned 3, we were both like, oh my God, we've entered a new era. Beyond that, I think that for me, it's like anything in life, you need to give it your intention and your attention. So I think one of the things that we get lost in is forgetting to prioritize our relationship to all like almost above our children. And by that, I just mean that like mom and dad need to be okay individually and they need to be okay as a team to actually be the best parents they can be. And if sex is a part of that, sex is a part of that. So it's really easy to just let it be something that falls by the wayside, to be something where we just kind of take advantage of the, like get lazy about the connection we have. And to just know when you've been in a long-term relationship, like it takes some intention, which is different than effort, right? An example of that will be like, I've noticed lately just how little my husband and I really touch each other. So we were talking at the end of the day, like he'd come home and we were just giving each other the daily updates. And I was like, we're 6 feet away from each other. And there's absolutely no reason that we couldn't be doing the exact same thing, but with our arms wrapped around each other, looking each other in the eyes, Or if we're watching Netflix at night, to be doing that cuddling instead of not. So some of it's really simple. It's like the 6-second kiss the Gottmans talk about, or like actually greeting your partner when they walk in the door. It seems so obvious and subtle, but it's stuff we do not do. We're just like, oh, hey, you're here. Cool. Or, oh my God, take these children away from me.
Well, I wanted.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think that one question that I've been reading a lot, especially a lot of our listeners have said, they're talking about the importance of communication. So I was hoping you might be able to touch on that too. So for some that are sort of reconnecting the kids, like you talked about carpools and everything else, how do they like then pull in the communication to get what everybody wants here?
So one of the starting points for people, especially if it's been a while, is I ask them to start with a reflection and a conversation about why sex matters to them and why it matters to their relationship. Because it's a great way to be like, why is this important? and what can we make happen right now in this season, right? If this season is like once a month or once every 2 months, but we book a hotel and go all out, or it's every Friday night while the kids are watching TV, like whatever it is, it's going to look different for everybody. But having that conversation about motivation and thinking about that, like have you ever actually asked yourself why sex matters to you and to your relationship? I think that it's also important to get clear on like what people need and what is possible, and to try to find an agreement that works. For me, like my biggest piece of advice, and it's the advice that people hate, is to schedule it. But my reason for that is we don't schedule sex. I call it scheduling naked, sexy, fun time, which is literally, like I said earlier, scheduling time to get naked and have fun. What that means is when you schedule it, you have control over the variables that affect your libido, right? So if you're exhausted, like my partner and I, for example, last night, we're trying to schedule a date night. We haven't had one in a while. And we were trying to figure out the logistics of booking a babysitter and which babysitter, and could we get an overnight babysitter? And then my husband was like, can we just book a day off from work and spend the day together? Because we'll be more awake and energized together. And so that's a way of controlling factors that are going to support my libido, right? Getting the kids out of the house so my brain that's worried about them hearing me can turn off and relax. Being in a space that makes me feel relaxed. Like, it's almost like the analogy I always have is people always joke that like vacation sex is so much better. And it's because you're out of your home and just like that much more relaxed. And so orgasm comes more easily and all that fun stuff. And my process is really designed to just help people recreate that feeling so that their brain can relax enough to enjoy what's happening when it happens. So scheduling it is important. Having a conversation about why it's important and making that decision about what you want to make possible in this time is important. And the last tip that I have for people is honestly to just make time together to learn about sex. A big part of the reason that people's libidos go underground after kids is because most of us have been getting away with pretty mediocre sex skills up until now. And now that everything has changed, meaning sometimes for people, like things that used to turn them on don't turn them on anymore, or like certain moves don't work the way they used to and all that stuff. We kind of have to like clean the slate and start fresh in a way. And that can be daunting, but to me, I choose to think of it as an exciting time to relearn myself and relearn my partner. And often that means up-leveling skills. And so my ability to communicate what I desire in my sex life, as well as my ability to communicate feedback during sex, is a huge skill that most people are terrible at. My ability to support my nervous system. Like if I could give anyone one hack, it would be like become a master of co-regulating with your partner. Because that's the number one way, especially as men or people with higher libido, like how to support your partner to come on board. You got to build a bridge for her from busy but mom mode to sexy lover mode. And it might seem obvious, but that's, can I pour you a bath? Can I get you a glass of wine or some tea? Can I massage you? Right? Those are ways of soothing the nervous system, getting her out of that daily fight and flight, and giving her libido a shot at wanting to show up.
Okay, Sophia, I gotta ask, because I'm sure a lot of listeners are like, where can I find some time with Sophia? So we need to just jump in this. If listeners want to connect with you, they want to learn more about your work, possibly work with you, where should they go?
Yeah. So the best place to go is the Sex After Kids podcast. If people just want to learn more about my approach and my thinking on this. Lots of coaches speak to, lots of sex coaches speak to the struggles that parents have, but I am really trying to be the sex coach for parents. And that means that the delivery of my programs are designed for your busy life. My approach and the goals we set are all designed for your busy life. And I get it because I'm a mom of 3. Like, I totally understand. Otherwise, my website is sexafterkids.com. And I most often hang out over on Instagram at the Happy V Project. And like, don't be shy to DM me. Don't be shy to tell me what's happening for you. That's why I say I'm your totally TMI sex coach. Like, you can't out TMI me with your question. And really, honestly, like, the biggest piece of feedback I get from people is just how grateful they were to have a private, non judgmental space to ask their questions and vent what's going on for them because they don't want to talk to their sister or their mother in law or their husband, even sometimes. And they need a different, kind of more neutral place to start that conversation.
Absolutely. And just speaking with you right now, I can see how trustworthy and easy you are to talk to. So, Sophia, thank you so much for being here today. I'm sure this conversation was exactly what so many of us needed to hear today and on. So, if you found it helpful, definitely share it. And to all of you listening, if this episode, of course, resonated with you, you got to share with a mom friend now and do it whenever you think about it. The episode will be here for you. And let's normalize these conversations and, of course, support each other and just finding joy and connection in really every stage of life. So make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And until then, take care and remember that you are more than just a mom. You're a whole, beautiful, and deserving human. And not Sophia just reminded you that today. And of course, make sure you follow her and give her some love. And thank you so much, Sophia, for your time. And of course, I will say welcome to the show and see you again next time. Thank you, Sophia.
So glad to be here.